Thank you.
I cannot believe it. I got to know.
Hi guys, thanks for bearing with us. I'm sorry we're getting a little late started on the computer, but we were stalling. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Wow. Okay, that's awesome. That's how it started. Okay, hi everyone. So just to let you all know, from near and far, I see people that are zooming in from sunny Florida and from nearby, and Arizona we got, and Nevada. We have a great showing online over here. Come on in, Barbara. Come on in. So we were waiting for the computer to be set up. So we kind of went around and people were sharing when they started coming and learning at the Chaim Center. So that was really beautiful. We didn't get through the whole group, but I think we're going to get started on the class now. And next class, maybe we'll pick up whoever didn't get a turn, because there's a lot of history and there's a lot of love in the space. And it's becoming more and more clear why this community is so special. There's a lot there. There's a lot, I cannot take any credit for someone new came in this Shabbat and said, wow, the energy is so great that you guys made it. And I'm like, I have to tell you, we walked in and it was like this. It was incredible energy. It's nothing to do with us. So we have Barbara Finn, and I just said that today we're dedicating the learning for this whole week in honor of Abraham Abba ben Aaron Halevi. May his memory always be a blessing for our community, Bruce. And I'm using his stender, so I feel him with me. Okay, so I'm really excited about today's lesson. And last week I was recuperating from getting my booster shot. So I was like, kind of like nursing I'm such a drama queen. What? Fetching, like I milked the fetching, like my kids were like, oh my gosh, like my kids got it also, like I didn't hear a peep from them, but for 4 days I'm like, so I'm back, and I heard last week's class was great with Gadi, so it's so good. He loves learning with you guys. And just before we start, I want to tell you we have some really exciting programs coming up. So Sunday, February 6th, we're starting a new monthly series, once a month, Sunday nights here, dinner if you want, from Mizrahi, followed by medical ethics with Dr. Didi and Rabbi Gadi. And they are open to talking about the most controversial issues in the medical world, in the Jewish world. Today, we'll talk about COVID, we'll talk about abortion, we'll talk about end of life issues, we'll talk about everything. And we're also very open to taking suggestions of topics. Dr. Didi said she only really likes the controversial ones. So I'm like, yes. So that's starting soon. And I'm really hoping that it'll be a really strong program and it'll build. So tell people about it. It's free unless you want to order dinner. Okay. So, and then this Thursday night is a very special program. It's National Holocaust Day this Thursday. So we are partnering with a worldwide program that Sarah Yocheved Rigler is putting out. She's doing a Zoom event from Jerusalem. It'll probably be in the middle of the night, like 4 a.m. that she's zooming in, but it's open to anyone. But we're gonna be doing it here as a community on a large screen. And you could come join us together. We've already bought our ticket as a community. And that way, if there's questions that come up, because it's such a sensitive topic, we're talking about reincarnation and the Holocaust, and souls that were reincarnated from the Holocaust. She has a book, I've mentioned it several times, it's called I've Been Here Before. Blew me away, blew my husband away. A bunch of people have read it from our community. If you don't need to read it in order to come hear the conversation, and then you might want to read it afterwards, and I'm happy to share my book. I'm happy to, continue the conversation, but this is such an earth-shattering conversation that's not had enough. As you said, Marcia, how you got into the L'chaim Center was when you saw an ad that Rabbi David was talking about the soul and the afterlife, and you're like, I don't really know much about that. So what Sarah Yocheved said is she's fighting 2 battles with this event. One, most Jews don't understand what happens after this world. We don't know. We don't talk about it very often, and there's very little written about it. So let's tackle that because we have very strong beliefs about it. And most Jews don't know the first thing about it. That's why death is so scary to us. Okay, so that's one topic. The soul is such a vital part of what it means to be a Jew. We don't believe this is it. There's so much more to us than this world. And then two, she's also trying to fight Holocaust fatigue, which is very, very real now. And especially now as all the survivors are slowly but surely passing away, we really, really need to figure out like how we're gonna hold on to these stories. We can't just be fatigued with it and just say, okay, we're moving on. It's a new year, it's a new generation. Okay, so it's a really important conversation. I hope you guys will join. Should we get started? Anything else? Okay. Yeah, so if you don't want to come here on Sunday night, you could purchase your own, on Thursday night, sorry, on Thursday night. If you want to do it from home or from wherever you guys are, like Susie, if you want to do it from Miami and Rhonda, if you guys want to zoom in, all you need to do, we in the email, there's 2 links, or maybe just 1 link, right? You don't need to RSVP to come here. I'm going to be here. Gadi's going to be here. We're going to spread out on these nice, comfortable couches. So it starts at 7, but I'm calling it for 6:45 so we could get settled before we start the program. But if you want to do it from home, we gave the link and you could pay your own $10 and get your own link from the author. Okay, and she's really excited. Sorry, her husband grew up in Deerfield. He went to Deerfield High. She was like, woohoo! I was like speaking to her on the phone. She was so excited. She loves our community. She'll be coming to visit. Mr. Winkler. Okay, so let's get started. Okay. Okay, so we are coming towards the end of this series. Now, I'm not saying it's the end, because we also have to figure out what we're going to be doing next on this Tuesday morning learning. But I've been using a book. We're at the end of the curriculum, so to speak. I mean, it's not really a curriculum, but we've been talking about all the different, thank you, you can pass the rest, all the different mitzvot between man and fellow man. And there are more, but we've touched upon the main ones. So now we're getting to the ultimate mitzvah, which is emulating God. And in order to get that, because that kind of encompasses it all, and we will probably do this class, I promised months ago in the beginning, I asked you guys if you've ever learned the 5 levels of pleasure. So, and everyone looks at me blankly and I'm like, no, we have to do that. So we're gonna do this class because when we get to the highest level of pleasure, you'll understand why. It's going to bring it all together, and this will help us close this topic. So this is a class that has been given over for decades. In fact, this morning in my carpool, I was carpooling with Rabbi Zenworth's 12-year-old kid, or this really adorable, maybe 13, young boy. I was saying, guys, you know, today I'm teaching about the 5 levels of pleasure. He's like, this little kid. And he's like, oh, I know them. And he's rattling them off, right? So clearly this is very, very well-known information. And I think we need to kind of define pleasure, because not all pleasures are created equal. And if we understand, because a lot of people, let's say, in this world are not even touching, not even reaching the level of pleasure that they can reach in this world. Okay, we're going to start with the 5 levels, and you're going to understand how with each one we go so much deeper. But I think most people get stuck around 3, 4. Okay, you'll tell me your opinion. You'll even, if you want, you could even give me a call afterwards and tell me where you feel like you get stuck. Okay, but it's very rare that for most people out there, the billions and billions of people in the world, to reach the highest levels of pleasure. So we're going to first take a step back before we go through these 5. And I prepared a handout for you guys so you can take notes. And I think you guys, did they get it? Did the ladies on Zoom get it? Okay, so you guys, it's okay. But maybe with the recording that you send out, you can add the handout. Okay, great. And that'll just be to help you. And if a story, if an example jumps out at you, then jot it down. So just to preface the 5 levels, we first need to ask, over here, what we're here for. What are we here for? What is this world all about? Why did God put us here? It seems to us that there's so much pain and suffering in this world. And there's so many people that are struggling with their purpose in this world. So we have to ask ourselves that. So from a Jewish perspective, why? Give me an answer. Give me a Rabbi David answer. What book are you learning with Rabbi David on Sundays? Is it the Mesilat Yesharim? I think it's the Mesilat Yesharim on Sundays. And in the introduction to that book, it says very, very clearly that the whole purpose that God put us here in this world is, and in Hebrew we say, Lihit aneg el Hashem ulahanot miziv shrinato, which means to have pleasure from God and to get this joy and happiness from being close to God's Shekhinah, his presence, right? Shekhinah is actually feminine. It's the feminine presence of God. Like that, it's all about pleasure. Like God put us here, lihit aneg, like oneg, like oneg Shabbos. Like if you're on a Shabbaton, they have an oneg Shabbos. That means pleasure, right? The whole purpose, according to the Mesilat Yesharim, our Musar giant, is to have pleasure. It's almost like you remember I used to get all these things in the mail that said, you want a sweepstakes, like you want a cruise, like you want, and you're like, whoa, and you like open it up and there's always a catch, right? You like small print. In the beginning, when I started like getting these, I'm like, Daddy, we're rich. We're going on a cruise. Like, yeah. If you sign up for that, you're going to be hearing from them for the rest of your life. So there's usually a catch, but there's no catch here.
I'm confused.
Okay.
I thought the purpose was
Okay, so that's one of the purposes. And honestly, if we could say, like, why are you here? To repair the world. That's a good answer. To do good, to change yourself, to get close to your creator. Like there's a lot of answers. They're all right. The Mesilat Yesharim, which is this very powerful Jewish source, says it's all about getting pleasure. It's all about, like, God wants us to be happy. He wants us to use everything that he put in this world to become the happiest, most present, most connected people that we can. In fact, I'll read you a scientific, the Gallup Healthways study. Okay, so this is, I'm not sure what year this came out, but okay, 2010, this study, it was like a well-being index, right, on all these studies. Basically, because of the high feeling of fulfillment, they found, get this, okay, this is like earth-shattering because this is not a Jewish study. They found practicing Jews ranked highest in well-being and overall happiness. And you could Google this. It's a whole quote that I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but it's unbelievable. Like, this is exactly what God had in mind. He gave us 613 pathways to connect. Some negative, like don't do this, and some positive, do this, and you will be connected. You will have pleasure. You will have happiness. Okay, so it's very powerful stuff. God wants us to be happy. Now, there's going to be different levels. Like not everyone is going to reach the highest level. And we also need to be aware of counterfeit things that take us away, right? Because as I said, not all pleasures are created equal. Some of them, there's a flip side of the coin to everything. Everything positive has a negative side. So the 3 things on your sheet, okay, the first thing, right, I started by saying, I don't ever want to get used to, oh, Paula's here again because she comes every time. I'm grateful every time I see her coming to class because I'm just grateful, right? We can't get used to things. So Deborah, you're like totally in the splash zone over here. If I would come to you and say, could I buy your eyes? What would you say? Best of luck to you, I'll give you $1,000. $1 million. But did you appreciate your eyes today? Not until I said, okay, so that's very truthful because we get used to things. We just take things for granted, so we don't appreciate it. So the number one thing on this list is you have to become a connoisseur. You have to learn to appreciate the things that we have, because otherwise we just, I don't know, we don't appreciate. In fact, we might have so much, and we do have so much, but if we focus on what we don't have, we will be miserable. And if we focus on what we, if we focus on what we don't have, we will be miserable no matter what we have. And if we focus on what we do have, even if we have very little, we will be happy people, right?
I feel so awful because I feel like I'm being so controversial, and I am.
Go for it.
But happiness leading is the end result of being purposeful, which is why Jews are happy, because they do purposeful things like repairing the world.
Right. Exactly. So basically there has to be a higher value connected to the happiness. It's not just for itself. It has to be connected to something bigger than the fleeting moment. For example, last week, my kids were all on vacation. Okay. Ask me how that went. We went to trampolining. Thank you. You saved me. We went to trampolining. We went ice skating. I rented a swimming pool. Friday night, we had guests at our table and they're like, oh, so what did you do this weekend? I look at them. I'm like, you better say the right thing. Because I put in so much effort. And they're like, oh, it was so boring. Seriously? My husband was like, you spent $100 on trampolining? Like, seriously, it was like 45 minutes, right? It's like crazy. You owe me. I'm just joking. You saved me. It was great because really it's so hard, because that's what is that? I mean, what, it's supposed to fill them up? They're supposed to hold on to like, oh, I went trampolining. Like, forget it. It's so fleeting. I didn't even take pictures because they were all like, this one was in a bad mood and that one was in a, like, I don't think they all smiled at the same time. There were no pictures taken. What? Okay, so that's the truth. Like, that's like, right. And on our 3-week road trip, that was like, I'll never forget this road trip. My mentor kept telling me the memories are much better than reality. I kept telling myself that because there was always someone fetching, crying, annoyed, upset, mad at someone else. Like, it was just like disastrous. And like, oh, it was amazing. Like, because you have the memories and those few pictures, like when you like threaten them, like to smile for the camera. Okay, so happiness is a very interesting thing because it's very fleeting. So you're 100% right. It has to be connected to something bigger. Okay, so let's talk about these 3 things that we need to be aware of before we go into the 5. So number 1 is to be like attuned to experience, to be a connoisseur, to taste it, to appreciate it, not to be a glutton, not to overdo it. Like there's fine wine and like swirling it around at the Shabbos table, or there's getting drunk, right? They're very different experiences of doing the same thing. In fact, something that we kind of say, because we lose balance all the time.
And both are okay.
Both are okay, but actually the Rambam, Maimonides, he always speaks about moderation. Right. The Jewish way is the golden path, the moderation. It's hard to, we all have our things. Like sometimes it's hard to like stop at one little sliver of chocolate cake. Okay, I'm totally like I'm guilty of that. But the thing is, like, sometimes we joke on Shabbat, we're supposed to eat for a higher, it's a mitzvah, right? With 3 meals on Shabbat. And sometimes we'll remind ourselves by saying at our meal, we'll say, oh, L'Kavod Shabbos, like in honor of the Holy Sabbath, right? And then we like press away, right? But sometimes my husband and I will joke, like when we're like having that second helping of like chocolate mousse, we'll say like, L'Kavod my boch. My boch is Yiddish for my stomach. Like in honor of my stomach. Like, is this really in honor of the Holy Sabbath, or did we kind of lose our footing here? So we're all real, we're all human, we're all works in progress, and we all fall off a little bit here and there, and that's okay. But knowing that everything has a higher purpose is really, really the only way to have ultimate happiness. So I'll tell you one more example. So we all stayed here in the freezing cold last week. My oldest son, he went to Miami with his friends. He wanted to chill. I have lots of mixed feelings about this trip, but he didn't want to chill here. He wanted to chill on the beach in Miami. So anyways, he went all week. I had sleepless nights because he was, far away. I mean, he did great. And last night, Sunday night, he got back to yeshiva and he sent me a text message. And he said, Mommy, thank you so much for trusting me and letting me go. And I'm ready. I'm feeling ready for the next Zman, like the next like chunk of time in yeshiva. Like he felt like he restored his batteries, recharged himself. He's like, I'm going to do really well this semester. It's one more semester of high school. We're all like, come on, just get through, you know? So in a way, sometimes like the vacation is such a holy thing if it's connected to a higher purpose. So everything can be used for a higher purpose. That's basically what God is telling us. Enjoy all the pleasures of this world. Okay, so that's one, was be a connoisseur. Number two, we're going to talk about this more as we go, effort versus pain, because a lot of times we try to stay away from effort, but the greatest pleasures we will ever experience come with the price tag of having effort involved. Like the harder you work at something, the more you're going to get out of it. In Hebrew, and this is from the book of Pirkei Avot, it says, Lefum Sarah Agra. It's actually Aramaic, which means according to the toil is the reward, right? If you just like look in a room, like look in a little hole and you see a woman giving birth, right? She's in so much pain, but it's her finest hour. This is the moment when 20 years later, when you say, what was the finest moment? She said, when I gave birth to my child. Right? So it's not, we're not trying to avoid pain. We're trying to embrace painful experiences that could bring us forward. Like becoming, I don't know, doctor. It takes a lot of hard work and effort. It's going to take years of studying and foregoing social experiences. And you have to like, you need to commit yourself if you really want to pull through. So there's a lot of pain involved, but there's a lot of pleasure involved. Okay, so we can't see pain and run away, because often the greatest pleasures have the price tag of pain. So we don't want to miss out on the pleasures. Something that is so powerful. Oh my goodness. So we have a great rabbi, Rabbi Berkowitz. He's the head of Aisha Torah. He's my husband and my rabbi, and he's been for about 15 years. And every time I go to Israel on trips, I meet with Rabbi Berkowitz, and we connect, and he wants to know what's happening on the ground, because he sent us out into the diaspora to go and be involved with Jewish community. So like he wants to know, like, how are you doing? And a lot of people complain, but I always like to go and tell him how great it is, like, and thank him for what he gave us and how like we love what we do. So last time he said to me, we have a problem. This is so amazing to have this conversation with such a great person. He said, Eve, when new students come into his Torah institution, it's a rabbinical college, like he's training people to become rabbis and sending them out into every corner of the diaspora, all over the world. He says, first, before I even teach them Aleph Bet, I have to put a beating heart inside of them. He said, because what he's seeing is that our generation is so numb. We have numbed ourselves because there's so much pain. There's so much pain in our society and our generation. We're dealing with emotional pain, mental pain. There's so much pain, probably generational going back. I don't know what it is, but have we ever had a generation that is on so many medications and still so unhappy? So because there's so much pain, people numb themselves. They don't even feel pleasure. That's what he told me. We had this moment. We just sat in silence. It was such a powerful moment in my life to discuss this with one of the greatest rabbis of our generation. And that's exactly what we need to do. We need to wake people's hearts up. Let it beat again so we feel, because we're so afraid of pain. So that's the pain versus effort. Pain is not a bad thing. It's something that could bring us great pleasure. And then the third thing is the counterfeit. Beware of the counterfeit, that there's always going to be something real versus something totally fake. Something that's good for us versus something that's totally not good for us. Like the glitter. There's like, you know, when you see things that like glitter and you think, oh, that's so enticing, that I want that, but that might not be good for you. So we always have to be very aware. So for every pleasure, I'm going to give you guys the counterfeit to be aware of. Okay, we ready to jump in? Okay, so this is, as I said, I think this is a lesson that Rabbi Noah Weinberg of blessed memory, he created this class. He has many books. This is all written down in his book. I think it's did you guys learn the 48 Ways to Wisdom with Ali? So I'm pretty sure this is embedded in that book. this whole lesson of the 5 levels of pleasure, and he got it from the Sefer HaChinuch. So it is sourced in Judaism, the book of education, the Sefer HaChinuch. And okay, so with the understanding that effort is good, that be aware of counterfeit, and appreciation, don't take things for granted. We're now going to go in. Okay, so we have to hold on to those 3 things to be aware of, and now we're going to go in. So the 5th level of pleasure is one that every single human being has on a regular basis. The lowest level, we're going 5 down to 1. The lowest level, number 5, is something that we have every single day of our lives. Okay, and it's physical pleasure. It could be food, it could be clothing, it could be, give me some examples. What? Music, good. Think 5 senses. Anything that we use our 5 senses for is physical pleasure. Give me another. Netflix, totally. Okay, good.
How about
physicality?
exercising?
Good. We'll probably connect sex to a higher one also, but it could be the lowest, the most base of levels also. Yes.
If it's
Yes. So we'll talk on a higher level. We could take all of these to a higher level. All of these could be used for spirituality, but number 5, 5th level is all of physicality. Buying that designer pair of UGG boots. It gives you a little bit, but I mean, how long are you going to be like, 2 snowfalls and they're already like, thrown to the side and they're all muddy, right? It doesn't give you anything long lasting, right? Unless, as you said before, unless what? Unless it's connected to something of higher, right? That's what you said before. Okay, so all material, so it's furnishings, appliances, art, fancy cars, anything that involves the 5 senses or anything that you could buy with money. Okay, questions? Make sense. Okay, so now what is the counterfeit of all of physicality? What's the counterfeit? We spoke about being in the middle road, because anything in extreme can be bad. So both extremes of physicality is bad according to Judaism. We're not monks. We don't sit on a hilltop and meditate all day. No, we're supposed to enjoy everything. But when we overdo it, when we overindulge, that's very, very dangerous. And we could overindulge in every one of those pleasures, including sexuality, including drinking and eating and over shopping and having too many things, right? Which Pirkei Avot tells us, marbe nechasim, marbe da'aga. The more things you have, the more worries you have. And that is so, so important. And when we were moving and cleaning out 7 years of stuff, I turned to my husband, I said, this is a disease. Like this, we're never going to acquire and amass so much stuff again. Please don't let us. Because we're like, oh, it's on Craigslist. Oh, they're giving it away. It's free. But when it comes down to it, it really does give you problems, because you know how hard it was. We had to pay people to lug it away. It might have been free, but it cost us so much stress. And for what? We're living in a teeny place, all stuffed in with so much stuff. Stuff is not good. It doesn't bring happiness. That the world spends billions of dollars on psychological tactics to get you to feel like you need all these things, but it doesn't bring happiness. It might give you a little bit in that moment. You're not taking any of it with you, and honestly, it just brings worry. Okay. Yes. Okay, so too much of anything will rob you of your pleasure. Too much. Anything in excess, or to the other side, anything that we're skimping on, that's also not good. We believe in enjoying everything. The Talmud teaches us, if there exists a fruit on this earth that you have not tasted, you will one day be called upon to explain why. This is a very strong statement. This is brought down by the Talmud. You need to enjoy everything God gave you. So much so that there was a story of a great rabbi who towards the end of his life, he had never left Israel. He was a Yerushalmi, great rabbi. He was close to 100 years old. And I guess he felt that he was now pulling away from life, and he knew that his time would come shortly. And he said to his students, he says, I want to go see the Alps. And his students are thinking, you've never traveled, you are in a fragile state, why now? And he said, because he knows that at the end of his life, which he felt was coming soon, God was going to ask him, did you see my Alps? This is really, really important to know. We really, we are here to enjoy everything. This world, every fruit, every beautiful sunset, every Alp, we have to enjoy it and connect it to something higher. It's a spiritual thing to travel and to see and to taste and to experience and to love and to feel. This is the highest, and to enjoy and to buy and to shop and to everything in moderation. But it's so, so important. God wants us to experience it all because he loves us. He created it for us, for our benefit, for our pleasure. Okay, so that's fifth love. Now we're going to fourth level. So any questions? Okay, fourth level. What is fourth level? So growing up as a child, my favorite movie, I think it was a Disney, but it was so good. I know it all off by heart. I've seen it like 3,000 times. It was called Can't Buy Me Love. Did anyone see that movie? Oh my goodness. It's Beatles, Can't Buy Me Love, you know? I'm not going to sing, but you get the point. But it's a great movie. And it was about this guy, Ronnie. He has money because he has a job, and the cool girl, she needs money, like $1,000 fast. So he gives her the $1,000 if she pretends to be like dating him so he could gain popularity because he's like a nerd. I don't know. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's such a good one. But it's called Can't Buy Me Love. And it's a great story. And in the end, he buys her love, right? They fall in love. Of course, it's a good ending. So, okay, but you can never take, so number 5 is anything money could buy, but number 4 is love. No amount of money could buy love. Love is a basic need that hopefully every human being experiences. It's priceless, right? It's worth more than all of number 5. It's worth more than any amount of money, any material possession in this world, right? You can't even compare the two. That's the 4th level, love and relationships. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys the scenario that Rabbi Weinberg gives. Okay, this is a great story. So you meet this man, his name is Jack. He's driven, he's top of his class, he graduated from Harvard. He's a total workaholic. His life's goal is to become a millionaire. Now he has it all. He has the beautiful wife and the 2 children, and he's basically at his desk downtown Manhattan by 7:15 a.m. He's already on his 3rd coffee, drinking it at his desk, and he rarely gets home before 10 o'clock at night. So basically, he is so driven, so motivated for 5th level. Someone comes into his office and says, I know you're trying to become a millionaire. I have a proposal for you. I will give you $25 million for an exchange. You won't have to work another day in your life. What's the exchange? This wealthy person that's offering Jack, and he says, I have everything. I can give you any amount you want, but my wife and I have never had children. Just give me one of your children. He says, you're never there to see them. You're here before they wake up. You're home while they're fast asleep. You spend your weekends trying to further your career. You're basically not a father. At least give me one, and then you could raise your other son. You have 2. I mean, you guys are all laughing. It sounds ridiculous. So what do you think Jack does? He is so, what do you guys think? I mean, he's so money hungry. His whole mission is he forgot he had kids. Like, he never sees them. So what do you think he does? It depends on the day, Julie says. I know, seriously. Okay, what do you think he does? He says, get the heck out of my office. Who are you, you sick guy? I'm not selling my kid. I don't care what amount you offer me. I know Doris is like, oops. Right? Right, you could think if he, but he's a human being, and love is more important to him. I mean, really, like, think, maybe he had to think for a few minutes, okay? But he kicks him out of his office, and he goes home that night, and it's after 10, his kids are all asleep, and he walks into their room and he thinks to himself, I just gave up $25 million. Why did I do this? And he's looking at his kids and he's like, I don't even know these kids. He said, but there has to be a reason that this was so important to me to say, of course not, get the heck out of here. And maybe I need to figure that out. So he calls his secretary. He says, I'm taking off 2 weeks. I need to spend time with my kids. His wife faints. Okay, she's like, who are you and what did you do with my husband? So the next day, he like prints himself a map to get to the corner park, and he's like trying to get the stroller open, and he's taking his 2 boys for the day. And everyone's like really nervous. His wife is like, are you sure you're gonna be okay? By 11 a.m., they have fought, they have like scraped knees. He is so frustrated. He is at his wit's end. His kids are crying. They're miserable. Takes them for ice cream, takes them to the amusement park, takes them all around, does everything, gets home at 7 p.m. He barely has enough energy to pull out his phone and dial his secretary to say, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so what happened? What went wrong over here? Clearly, the pleasure number 4 was so much more important than the pleasure number 5. He knew that, but something went wrong. What went wrong? He didn't have the tools. He wasn't able to appreciate his kids. You see, what is love? And we've spoken about this in previous classes. Love is when you could see the virtues of another human being. It doesn't mean that you don't see their flaws. Every human being has virtues, strengths, so much beauty and wisdom, and flaws. But when you love someone, what you see more is their virtues. You see that you identify them with their good things, and you let go of the flaws. We all see the flaws in our kids and in our spouses, right? But we still love them because we see their strength, we see their potential. That's like a dangerous word to use in marriage. Never tell your husband, I see your potential, because, right? But we all see their potential, and that's what we do like our whole married life. We're trying to get them to up their game because we see their potential. It doesn't mean we don't see all their flaws. Okay, so he didn't do that. When they were fighting, when they were, trying to be manipulative on their father to get the double scoop of ice cream, he had a moment where he could have seen the beauty in that. They're so adorable. Sometimes when the kids are so ridiculously challenging, I burst out laughing because you have to, like, what are you going to do? Like, you're trying to be so stern, and like this 8-year-old is trying to like convince you of something that he doesn't deserve to get. And you just like, it's so cute, right? That's called love. So the counterfeit of love is infatuation. And this is the danger, because very often when we say we love someone, what we're really saying is we love ourselves. We have to think about this very hard, because in the world, okay, obviously we're willing to, be apologetic for our children and for our spouse, and we're willing to like go the extra mile. But when we use the word love very easily, but we have to kind of give space for what is love. Is that real love? Do you really love that person, or you love the idea? Are you really willing to let go of the flaws? That's real love. And that comes after years. Okay, who is at my house? I can't remember. I like pulled out my wedding album. Was it any of you? Judy, maybe it was you. I can't remember who it was. I never pulled this out. But there's a picture in the wedding album from, my husband and I, we dated very, very quickly, right? I told you guys we had 3 dates. It was a done deal. So, which is crazy. I'd never let my daughter do this, but for some reason, this is what happened. And it was I knew on the first date, he knew on the first date. But and in religious circles, like we didn't touch. We were so infatuated with each other, but like we hadn't yet, like we hardly knew each other. We were kids, we hardly knew each other. So embarrassing when my husband, so he never told me he loved me. I know Marsha's like, oh my gosh, right? But it wouldn't have been real had he told me, right? Because like we barely knew each other. I was like, what's your name again, right? So so the first time he told me that he loved me, it was so embarrassing because we flew from Israel to South Africa. It was on a Friday. It happened to be Purim. Oh my gosh, it was like a disaster Purim. Friday was Purim. Sunday was his brother's wedding in Johannesburg. So we're like, there's so much energy in the house because not only are they getting ready for this wedding around the corner, but it's Purim. So everyone's drinking because Purim, we'll talk about Purim when we get closer to Purim. You're all welcome to join us for Purim, but hold on tight. That's all I can say. So he's drinking and there's so many l'chaims going on because there's the wedding and there's Purim and there's everything. And I'm not drinking. I'm like barely 19 years old. And I'm watching this all these South Africans. They're Moroccan, different culture, different world. I'm like halfway across the world from my parents. It's Arab Shabbat. They're all getting rowdy. And before I know it, they're dancing down the hall, Gadi and his mom and all his brothers, and they're all like hooting and making so much noise. And before I know it, they are Gadi and his mom near the jacuzzi in her room, and Gadi ends up in the jacuzzi, in the hot tub, fully dressed, lying there like this, totally drunk, and everyone's like laughing and watching. And then he says in front of everyone, "I love you, Eve." I nearly walked away. If it wasn't Arab Shabbat, I would have got back on the next air flight. I sat on the edge of his mother's bed and I thought to myself, how could I get home before Shabbat? Get me the heck out of here. What did I do? I thought I was married to an alcoholic, right? I've never experienced a Purim like this before. So love. I mean, I'm married now 20 years. Now I know what love is. Love is the hardest thing you will experience in your life and the most beautiful thing. We all know that, right? We all know that it takes so much pain and effort and toil to say, I love you. I love you in the hardest moments. That's when we feel love, right? It was all infatuation, right? It was all ridiculous. And I'm glad I stayed with him, but it turns out well. But oh my gosh, that Shabbat was so he apologized 3,000 times. And then the next Purim, I didn't let him drink anything. So yeah. Okay, so where are we up to? So Jack, we're up to Jack. He just turned down all this money and it's because he didn't really know how to use love. And the price tag for love is commitment. So Jack needed to work his price tag. If you look at your sheet, right, the effort is commitment. That is the price tag. When you commit yourself to love someone and to put all the time and effort in, that's when you could start to love someone. And the counterfeit is infatuation. Okay, we ready to go to level 3? I really want to finish all 5, but I do have a meeting at 12 o'clock. So I'll be a little late. I'll go to my meeting a little late. So I'm going to go like a train and then I'm going to just give you guys a kiss and run to the next room to get on my next meeting. Okay. So level 3, pleasure. And this is where this is what separates the girls from the women. Okay. This is where, or the boys from the men. Okay. Because not everyone goes deeper than 2. Everyone has number 5. Everyone hopefully has number 4. But the 3rd level pleasure is more than love and money. And that is meaning. It's having meaning. And the questions that we can ask ourselves is, what are we willing to die for? That is a great question that Rabbi Noah Weinberg would always ask. What if once you realize what you're willing to die for, you now know what you're willing to live for. It defines your life. What is your cause? What is so important to you? And that gives you meaning. And having meaning is so vital. And if you think about, here's another question that Rabbi Noah Weinberg would often ask. What do you want written on your tombstone? What words? And it's not going to be, her makeup was impeccable. She dressed to the nines. Like, you'll never, even if that's what her whole life was about, no one wants that written on their tombstone, right? You want something a little more, right? You want to show their values. In fact, one of the powerful things that I do on my trip to Poland is we go through the cemetery, the largest cemetery in the Jewish world in Warsaw, and we walk without talking for a little bit because every tombstone tells a story. It's the story of every single life. You see the picture of the charity. You see the picture of the women's hands lighting her Shabbat candles. You see the Kohen with his fingers, up. That was his life. He served as that. You could tell a story from the tombstone. So the question is, what do you want to be written on yours? What gives you meaning? What would you be willing to die for? It's not being skinny, right? It's not like, maybe it's being healthy, but we really need to ask ourselves these questions because we get stuck over here, right? And doing something meaningful with your life is very powerful. And this is what really brings you pleasure. Okay, so here's scenario, case A, case B. Case A, you're sitting on a park bench, you look down at your feet, there's a brown paper bag. So you pick it up, don't even look what's inside. Someone is looking for something right in front of you. Someone is searching all around. You say, did you lose something? And he says, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Takes it in his hands. He says, you don't even know, you saved me. I just drew my life savings. I'm on my way to purchase my first house. I have $100,000 in this bag. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're like, you're welcome. Have a great day, have a great life. And off he goes. Now, scenario B, a little different. You're sitting on a park bench, you look down at your feet, there's a brown paper bag, you open it up, there's $100,000 of cash in it. Now, you're a really good person. So you tell yourself, I'm gonna wait a half an hour and see if anyone comes looking for it. But then I'm out of here. And in your mind, you're thinking of all the things you want to buy with this $100,000 that could be yours in a half an hour. So 29 minutes pass and you are dreaming. You've spent it in your mind. It's gone, okay? You're so excited. 29 minutes and 30 seconds pass and someone comes running, searching, frantic, and you don't know what to do. But you say, did you lose something? And he says, yes, my life savings, I lost it. I was sitting right here. I don't know where it went. And you hand it over to him, and you like mumble under your breath, like, you should be more careful next time. And off you go. Now, case A, case B. Case B, you weren't as nice, but you did something tremendous. You knew what was in that bag. It could have changed your life, but you chose to do the right thing. And even though your reaction was a little jaded, right, a little bit like harsh around the corners, for the rest of your life, you will tell your children, you will tell your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will know what type of a good person, an honest human being you were, because you did something really hard. And that feeling is worth more than $100,000, right? There was a famous story, I think we shared it in this class, about this religious guy that bought a desk on Craigslist. And when he took it home, he opens under the drawer, an elderly person that had this desk had, I guess, like kept all her money like in a bag that was connected to the bottom of the desk. And there were, I think, $90,000. So he returned it, and it was all over the news because it's a big deal to return it. It's hard to do the right thing, but that's what kind of takes you from a lower level to a higher level. Okay, so that is living with meaning. And what is there's lots of pain, right, and effort involved in that, right? With living with meaning, there's a lot of pain, and sometimes it takes hindsight to look back and to feel the pleasure. Sometimes it takes a while to feel good about your decision, okay? And the counterfeit is something we've been speaking about a lot in our class when we speak about chesed, doing good for the world, tikkun olam, all that stuff. The counterfeit is looking good, right? Like when I told you that story in Thailand, how we did chesed with those kids. It was their day off. They didn't want to come to school, but we did chesed with those kids, right? So that's the counterfeit. And there's so much more to this counterfeit because very often, okay, I think we're gonna, yeah, let's carry on. Okay, so here is okay, to sum it up and to move into the second level, okay? So how are we doing so far? Physical is the fifth, love is the fourth, meaning is the third. Now, as we're getting closer to the ultimate pleasure, it gets harder to relate to these things, okay? So here is a way to understand going to the second level. You have a construction site. You have various men working on site. Guy number one is there because he's not wearing a shirt. It's a beautiful day. He's working on his tan. He's excited for his paycheck. He's working his biceps. Okay, he is there because he is getting so much pleasure. Which number is he getting? Number 5. Now, the guy next to him is working just the same as hard, but he is there because in his heart, he wants to support his family. He has a daughter that's going off to college, and he is trying to make an honest living to support his family and get his daughter to college. What level is he tapping into? 4, love. That's why he's there. Now, man number 3, he has been building his entire life. Okay, he has been on sites. He has built stadiums and bowling alleys, and it's a job for him, right? This is his job. He's built all these great things, but this project is extra meaningful to him because this is the first hospital in his town. And he wants to always hold that in his life, he built the first hospital so people could get the care that they need. What level is he digging into? 3, meaning, okay? So now we're gonna take it to level 2. We're going one level further. There's someone else on that site. The person that's there is someone that is there to supervise, but he is working behind the scenes. He's the architect, he's could be like a member of a committee, the fundraiser for the project, the dreamer, okay? The people that made the project from a dream into a reality. Like there's the dreamers that kind of, without them, you wouldn't even get to the breaking ground, okay? So the second level pleasure is using your creativity in a meaningful way. Utilizing your creative abilities to build something everlasting, right? God gave us talents. When we tap into our talents, we call it yi'ud, right? Which is like our purpose, our higher purpose. We all have certain things that we're good at. When we tap into them, the joy, the pleasure that we feel is indescribable. To use that to build something huge is unbelievable. And I used this example, and I actually taught, the last time I taught this class on the 5 levels of pleasure, I didn't give a whole class, it was like a 5-minute thing. It was at my father's retirement party. My father worked for an organization in Toronto for 35, 36 years called RENA Foundation. It was for handicapped Jewish adults. And this was my entire upbringing. If I could sum it up, it was having Down syndrome people at our Shabbos table. It was going to their homes to shake lulav and esrog with them. It was making a Passover Seder for disabled people. It's probably the greatest gift that I got in my childhood was being schlepped. And after a while, I didn't need to be schlepped. I got my whole class to come with me every Sukkot and Pesach. It was such a gift. I didn't even realize. But what my father did in his life, my father's a very humble person. But when he retired, I mean, it was all about him. So people got up and roasted him. And I said that he used his abilities as an accountant. He's just an accountant. But he used that to access millions and billions of dollars. He built over 3 programs, like program centers, and over 60 group homes. That when I drive down the street in Toronto, I know my father put up that building, my father put up that building. He was the power behind it. He made sure that everything was done to the highest quality, so it's wheelchair accessible, and that the driveways, the snow melts on its own, so none of the clients will slip. And the bars are put up to their level in the kitchen so that they can learn how to cook. And everything was done with so much detail. I said, that is not only meaning, it's using everything that God gave you to bring so much goodness into the world. That was, and this is what I shared. I shared about this high level that most people don't get to do and how meaningful that is. That's his legacy. Toronto will forever, whether our family lives in Toronto forever or not, Toronto was forever changed because of my father, because of what he did with his resources, with his power, with his strength. You could take power and you could abuse it, unfortunately, or you could take power and you could utilize it. And that's over here what is so key. So the counterfeit to using your creativity and your power is abusing it. And this is, we're talking Stalin, Hitler, Saddam Hussein, all these powerful people. They used their power, their creativity to bring destruction. And that is what we need to be so wary of. We need to use it to empower people and to build, and not to put people down or to destroy. So that's when you reach into your creativity, and everyone has so much power. You have to be so careful that you're doing things with so much clarity, and you have to commit yourself to doing things totally for the right reasons. My father had so much money that he could have used in different ways. I can't explain it, like billions of dollars. And he was an honest, good person. He never took a cent. Like, we lived very, very simply. There was never, we didn't have any extras. I could see how people will fall in that role. You can make mistakes, and we see it all over the news. People of power tend to abuse it. So when we could not abuse it and use it to build people up, that's when we access level 2, using our creativity for a higher cause. And now let's get to number 1, and we're going to end. Number 1, drum roll. Okay, so number 1 brings us all to the topic, which is connecting to God. And ultimately, right, taking all of the reasons, okay, someone is calling me, all of the things that we've spoken about in this course so far, the highest level of chesed, the highest thing we could do is take all of our experiences and try to emulate God. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week, and we'll bring it all together with all the examples that we've learned till now. So first level pleasure is the drive for ultimate meaning and experiencing godliness in this world. Now, as I said, most people don't tap into this level. Most people live their lives here and now, and that's it. We don't see what came before us. We don't see what's coming next. We don't see that there is a big picture. When there's a hard thing, we're angry, we're bitter. We just don't see that there is a God. But when we can connect to godliness, everything changes. A lot of us use the term HP, Hashgacha Pratit, like higher power, the hand of God. We use that, like, in passing. It's like kind of like a term that we coined. It changes everything. If we see things through glasses that have God in it, everything feels different. It's a game changer. So the key over here, or the effort involved, is it takes humility, because when you have a success, you need to make space for the fact that maybe it wasn't all you. Maybe it was God's way, and you were blessed, and whatever it is, you need to have a little bit of humility to bring God into every one of your achievements, and to know that it wasn't all you, that it was gifts of God. It's not your credit. And this is difficult because as human beings, we crave recognition, independence. We want to think and know that it's us that was responsible for it. So this is a very hard thing. To live hand in hand with God, it takes a lot of humility, and people are uncomfortable with it because of our human nature. Not a bad thing. It's just, we just need to be aware of that. Now, the best part about walking with God is that you are never alone. You're never alone, no matter what, no matter how difficult the situation, every challenge, every test. It's great when you have God with you. You're never alone, right? And some people say that they don't believe in God, but what's the very famous saying? There's no atheists in a foxhole. There has to be. When you're in that pinch, even if you say you don't believe in God, and people don't, but what do you do in that moment? Like, well, and what, you don't need to call it God, but there has to be something bigger or higher than me. It's nature. It's the nature to just look up to something, grasp onto something. There has to be something. Otherwise, how do you get through that moment? So the counterfeit of this level is arrogance and self-absorption, because when you see yourself let's just put it like the opposite of making space for God is leaving no space for God. So when you leave no space, there's no room for anything outside of yourself. But that is the counterfeit to this. And I'm going to end with, I'm going to sum it up with this example. Okay. You have a beautiful apple tree, like the logo of L'Chaim. Okay. I'm looking at the logo on this flyer in front of me. Beautiful tree with apples, and someone comes and they pull an apple. It's gorgeous. It's a delicious red apple. And they take this and they sink their teeth into it. Now, what level pleasure is this individual accessing? Level 5. Physical pleasure. Delicious apple. Yum. Now, if we see this beautiful tree and we go up to the tree and we pick that apple and we stop, we pause, and we make a blessing on the apple. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei pri ha'etz. Thank you, God, Master of the world, for giving us this beautiful fruit. Blessing all the trees. Borei pri ha'etz. I'm blessing the fruit of the tree. And then we take a bite of it. Now, what level have we accessed? 1. Because we've just brought God down into this world with us. He's sitting with us enjoying the apple. So we could, in one split second, go from a 5th level pleasure we're eating apples all the time, right? Taking a moment, acknowledging, awareness. It's not for granted. It's here for us. It's a gift. It's red. It's gorgeous. It's perfect. It's going to give me nutrients. It's going to give me energy for my whole day. I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm not going to forget where it comes from. We're now going all the way to level 1 and bringing God into the picture with us and seeing God's hand in our life. So those are the 5 levels of pleasure. Not my content. This is Rabbi Noach Weinberg of blessed memory. Just about a week or 2 ago, he had his Yahrzeit, the day of his passing, and I think he's been gone for well over 10 years. He's been gone for a while. I remember the day that we heard that he was gone. There was a huge void in the world, because it's so appropriate that we're talking about his content, his lessons, his teachings within this series of Bein Adam L'Chavero, because if I would say one thing to sum him up, and he was a larger than life individual, he believed so strongly in the power and the potential of the Jewish people. He was like no one else. What he did so greatly was that he loved every Jew. Bein Adam L'Chavero, between man and man, all he taught is again and again, love your brother. Love your brother. He would scream it from the rooftops. We could change the world through love. That was his whole essence. So it's really apropos that we're bringing this down. Next week, I'm going to try to sum up this whole series. I think it's going to be around week 15 of this series on interpersonal relationships. And then I need a new topic to start for the next series. So I'm open to anything. Send me requests, and I love you guys all, and I'm running into my meeting now. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you from Arizona.
Thank you, Eve.
Enjoy.
Wonderful class.
Okay, I will.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Say, I love you. The last thing I wrote you.
Oh,
That was.
oh my gosh. It's like Fiddler on the Roof. Do you love me? Bye, guys. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. So good to see you.
Don't go out tonight, 24 below.
Oh, I'm gonna miss you. Oh, that's so exciting. You're going on Thursday, right? Yeah. Okay, great. Guys, everybody take chicken soups and challah. There's lots. We just restocked. Help yourself, help yourself. Oh, got it. Yes. I know. But I was so late. I could not find my car keys. Oh my gosh. And then, yeah, it was the worst. And I drove Sadie to school, so I knew I had them. And they were in the, you know what I mean? So I'm like carrying the out or whatever. And I left them in the car. Which I think. You know what the neighbors call that? I like that. Like it's not all. I don't know.
Yeah, but
grenade. I think we kind of, maybe not maybe not fully, but we needed with like the pinnacle is the dance party. It starts off, no one knows who started